When you make a TV show, a pilot will be made at some point because it's just part of the show making process. TV show pilots can be incredibly different compared to the final show due to being made in the early stages of the show. But sometimes, like some media, some pilots will become lost. This can be for a number of reasons, like the pilot being rejected, the pilot going missing, or the pilot is not resurfacing after its creation and showing. But even these pilots can have major differences and can be incredibly interesting on their own. So that's why today I'll be talking about 5 lost pilot episodes. The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog is a 1992 animated television show based off the Sonic the Hedgehog video game franchise. In 1992, a pilot was made to show the show. The pilot was made also in-house over in America compared to just outsourcing in Asia, which resulted in better completed animation. Due to the pilot just being a pitch and not an episode meant to be seen by the public, it was never released on home media. However, a small portion of the pilot was featured in the episode of the series Untouchable Sonic, and another portion of the pilot made it into a commercial in the show. In 2009, a 7-minute version of the pilot appeared on YouTube. The pilot seems to be incomplete due to the lack of music, sound effects, and a time code in the top left corner of the screen. Fortunately, it is very likely a completed version does exist and just has yet to resurface. Gravity Falls is an American animated horror comedy television show. The show first started airing in 2012, but has a pilot episode that was created in 2010, 2 years before the show we got today. The pilot has quite a lot of differences compared to the main show, like for example, the pilot having a 12-minute running time compared to the average episode from the show having twice that running time. The third journal not being seen in the pilot, instead being replaced by Dr. Crackpot's Book of the Damned, and the pilot being animated in Flash, unlike the show that was not animated in Flash. When the show director Alex Hirsch pitched the pilot, it was greenlit for production. Initially, Alex Hirsch wasn't going to release the pilot due to him calling it embarrassing. The pilot was also considered lost for many years until 2016 when the cipher hunt happened. The cipher hunt's end led to the unearthing of the pilot on a private website that required a username and a password. Being our only found entry, the pilot is on YouTube, but I highly recommend watching the pilot. In 1953, the BBC attempted to adapt the children's book series, The Railway series, which was a failure to say the very least. The broadcast was a live one, kind of like the television ghost, which I mentioned in my last video, which you should watch, please. Most likely because this was in the early days of television. The pilot was broadcasted live from Lime Grove Studios on Sunday 14th, 1953, which I hope I'm saying right. The broadcast was an attempted adaptation of the third story from the book series, The Sad Story of Henry. The models used were 00 gauge models that were reported to jerk around as they moved. While the broadcast was happening, an engine derailed off the tracks, and one of the crew members' hands put it back on the tracks, which may not seem like much, but is actually the main thing this pilot is known for. The scene made the news and put a sequel to the pilot on hold that would have aired a week later, and was cancelled. The pilot has been completely lost for years. Another attempt was made in the 70s that would have used 2D animation instead of the 53 adaptation and the official Thomas the Tank Engine series. A pilot for that adaptation was commissioned. Unfortunately, a pilot went unproduced. Both the pilot episodes have resurfaced, and both are considered lost to this very day. The Backyardigans is the 2004 CGI animated kids show. But the show was never meant to have a 2004 release date or to even be CGI animated. In 1998, a live-action pilot called Me and My Friends was made. The pilot was rejected by Nickelodeon, probably for the better, because this looks like low-key nightmare fuel. In 2000, several former employees of Nickelodeon Studios made a 5-minute compilation video for its 10th anniversary, which included a couple of seconds of footage from the pilot. Later in 2002, show creator Janice Burgess reworked the idea of the show into what we know today as the Backyardigans. Other than the fact that the pilot was live action, there are several differences from the final show, like for example, Unico having nostrils, Tyrone's shirt having yellow and blue stripes, and a pretty noticeable difference being the lack of the character Austin due to him not existing at the time. Fortunately, a YouTuber by the name of SewerReviewer has started a search effort of the pilot, and has a pretty good lead. He has 2 videos on the topic, and I highly recommend watching them. Both the videos will be in the description. Jimmy Two Shoes is a Canadian animated children's show that started airing in 2009. In 2006, an investor-paid pilot was made for the show, with the show being incredibly different compared to the show we have today, with it taking place in hell. Yes, you heard me right. With the show having an older target demographic. Basically the answer on why the setting was hell. With the plot of the pilot being the following. Jimmy getting hit by a truck, dying, and accidentally getting sent to hell. Jimmy thinks hell is a fun place despite it not being quite that. Yes, that's the plot. You did not mishear me. Based on the investigations by YouTuber L Supersonic Q, the show director Edward K claims he doesn't even have the pilot. But why did I choose this as number 1 instead of the other entries? Well, that's because its whereabouts are currently unknown. The Sonic pilot most likely exists in Deke's archives. The Gravity Falls pilot was intentionally found. The Sad Story of Henry has no chance of surviving with the other pilot not being produced. And me and my friends most certainly exist in Nickelodeon's archives or in the possession of director Janice Burgess. But this pilot, director Edward K confirmed he didn't even have the pilot. And K confirmed that the investors are the only known people who have the pilot. God knows who these investors are, if they're even alive, or do they even have the pilot today, because remember, this was a decade and a half ago. Hopefully we can get an answer.